Hello, my dear students. How are you? Ramadan Kareem. Hope that you're not facing any troubles fasting. This is the video for lecture 4. In this lecture, I'm going to explain for you a new writing skill. It's not new because you already covered the skill. It's just a matter of applying it in writing. And we're going to go over a new grammar objective. Are you ready? Okay, let's move on. Of all, I'm going to start with the writing part. Before I start explaining anything, remember the advice that I gave to you during the last live Zoom session. When you're watching this video, it's better if you divide it into two halves. The first half is related for the writing, and the second half is related for the grammar. Listen for the first part, the grammar, the writing part, which I mean the compare contrast essay. It will be when you listen to it over and over, once, twice, or 3 times. Okay, you master it. Then you go to the writing part in the worksheet. You solve the writing part in the worksheet. After that, you come back to the video and you watch the grammar part, which is about action verbs. Okay, you watch it for once and twice. Then you go to the grammar part in the worksheet. You solve the question. Okay, after that, you will find a very short question as a homework, but it's related only to grammar. Okay, because in the live Zoom video, I'm going just to help you solve the worksheet. The homework will be graded. You have to do it by yourselves. I'm not going to solve it with you. Okay, just to keep you informed. And then later, we're going to have a very short quiz in the grammar part on. I think that now everything is clear. We can directly start with our lecture. Okay, compare, contrast, essay. For sure, you know what's an essay. Till now, we have written more than one essay. Okay, the essay is divided into introduction, body, and conclusion. Okay, compare, contrast essay. What is the compare, contrast essay? From its title, compare and contrast. You remember that the last session we covered compare, contrast skill. So now we have to apply it in writing. In the writing part, we're going to cover two objectives. We're going to compose a compare contrast essay, and you have to fill in a Venn diagram as a graphic organizer. As you know, for every compare contrast, we have a Venn diagram. Are you ready? Let's start. Okay. First of all, let's start with what is a compare contrast essay. Do you still remember what we mean by compare contrast? Okay, let me help you and remind you because the last session we have covered compare and contrast. Let's say you have two things, two people, two places, maybe two animals, whatever. You want to compare and contrast them. How? When I say compare, I mean I have to mention the similarities of these things or the two objects that I have or the two people that are standing in front of me, for example. Mentioning similarities. How are they alike? How are they the same? What is in common between them? Okay. But when I say contrast, I mean the opposite. It's the differences. Contrast is the differences. How are these two things different totally? Okay. For example, let's say I have two places. What is the style of each place? Each place has its own style. I'm mentioning here differences, so I'm making contrast. So when I say compare and contrast essay, it means an essay that includes similarities and differences of two objects, to people, to places, and I might be writing about more than two places, more than two people. Okay, so the most important thing is to know that in the compare contrast essay you mention similarities and differences. A compare contrast essay is a type of expository writing in which the writer mentions or gives information to the reader. Okay, first of all, let's underline the word expository. What do we mean by expository? As you all know, expository is when I'm giving information, okay? Whenever I have an informational article or an expository text, it means that I'm giving facts, real information, maybe statistics, okay? So here, since the compare contrast focuses on giving information about similarities and differences, so it's considered an expository writing because I'm not giving my opinion. I'm not trying to let the readers have fun. I'm not trying to convince them with something new. So it's not persuading, not it's not entertaining. It's informal. Sorry, it's informational. Okay, it is informational text. So it's an expository writing. It gives what the writer gives what information to the reader. You see, gives information in a compare contrast essay. What do I find in a compare contrast essay, or what do I write about? If you're a writer, you have to write about. If you're a reader, you will find in the compare contrast essay. You write about the similarities and differences between two or more. You see, two or more. I might have two, three, four, 5, 10, 20. I don't know how much. People, places, things, or ideas, even ideas, okay? So in the compare contrast essay, it's expository, it gives information. And what is this information about? The information is about the similarities and differences between two or more people, places, things, or ideas. Compare focuses on similarities. So when I say compare, I mean similarities, okay? Contrast, when I say contrast, contrast focuses on differences. Contrast focuses on differences. Okay? So this is in general the definition of a compare contrast essay. Let's move on. How to write a compare contrast essay. First of all, you have to keep in mind the Venn diagram. Why? Let me tell you something. If you remember, and you must remember that every time we need to write or we have to write an essay or a paragraph, we have a graphic organizer before developing or composing this paragraph. Why? Because the graphic organizer organizes our ideas. Here, what is the graphic organizer related to the compare contrast? It is the Venn diagram. What do I mention in the Venn diagram? I mention similarities, differences. Okay, in the middle, I write the similarities. On the sides, I write differences. And pay attention, please, as I usually say, and as I always say, in the graphic organizer, we write phrases or words, okay? It's not a matter of writing complete sentences. We leave the complete sentences for the paragraph, for producing the paragraph. It is better to use a Venn diagram to organize your ideas before you start developing your paragraph. You see, it's very important to use the Venn diagram for what? To organize your ideas. When? Before, not after. Before developing the paragraph, we organize the ideas in the graphic organizer, which is here the Venn diagram. Then we move to developing our paragraph. Okay. First of all, now I finished from the graphic organizer. Now I have to develop my paragraph. Sorry, my essay. Essay. And the essay, you know, as I said at the beginning, introduction, body, and conclusion. Let's see now, move step by step to see what each part contains. Start in the introduction. Start with a general discussion of the topic or give a background about it in 2 sentences. Okay? So as I said, we move from the general to the specific. Then move to the thesis statement, which is the most important sentence in the introduction. Why? Because it sheds light on the purpose of the writing, which is the heart. To see how the writer described the thesis statement, he described it as the heart of your writing. In the thesis statement, you mention the purpose. Okay, you see? purpose behind your writing. Why? It identifies the topic and the intention to compare and contrast the two specified objects, ideas, places, or etc. Okay? So in the introduction, it could be of three sentences, three complete sentences, one for general discussion, the second one for the background about the topic, and the third one, which is the thesis statement that sheds light on the purpose behind your writing, which is here the compare and contrast. Okay. Now I finished from the introduction. I have to move to the body. So guys, now we have finished from the introduction part. We have to move to the body part, okay? The body part, which is very important because it includes all the necessary information about the topic that I'm writing, okay? First of all, the body paragraphs can be organized in two different ways. I have two different ways to organize the body paragraphs in the compare contrast essay. And why am I using body paragraphs, not one paragraph? Because it's better and I prefer you follow this way. You divide the body paragraph into two parts, okay? The first part is about the similarities and the second part is about the differences. But in which way? Let's see. First way is compare then contrast, okay? You can start with the similarities between topic A and topic B. Then you move to the differences, okay? So in other words, you as the writer, in the first body paragraph, you mention all the similarities between A and B. And when you finish from the similarities, you move to the second body paragraph where you mention all the differences between A and B, okay? What is the second way? The second way is subject by subject. Okay, from the title you can figure out that you start with topic A, then you move to topic B. This organization deals with all of the points about topic A. In paragraph 1, I mention everything about topic A. Then in paragraph 2, I mention everything about topic B. But my advice is to follow first way, which is compare then contrast. It's better and it's more organized and it's easier for you as students. Okay, you start in the first body paragraph about the similarities between the two topics. Then in the second body paragraph, you talk about the differences. Now, there is an important note that you have to pay attention while writing, especially the body paragraphs, because the body paragraphs include a lot of sentences. Do not forget to use transitional signals to link sentences together. Okay, there are certain transitional signals, transitional words that are used to show comparison and contrast, and we have explained them before. We're going to revise them now at the end. But after I finish from the body paragraphs, what should I write? I cannot leave my essay open. I have to close it. So I have to close it with the conclusion. What should I write in the conclusion? In the conclusion, make sure, emphasize on the similarities and differences. So the readers would acquire the purpose. Acquire the purpose. What do we need from our writing? We need or we want the readers to acquire the purpose, our purpose behind the writing. What is our purpose here is mentioning the similarities and differences between two topics. You can also ask the readers to think of another possible ideas. It's a good idea to ask them to think of other similarities and differences. Okay, and this way you're giving them a space to think. Okay, now we finished from the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. To the useful transitional signals. What are these transitional words or transitional signals that we can use in writing and especially in the body paragraphs? For comparison, we use some of these words: similar to, similarly, in the same way, like, equally, again, also, to, each of, just as, so. Okay? For contrast, I can use in contrast, on the other hand, different from, whereas, while, unlike, however, but, although, however, it's mentioned twice, conversely, yet, unlike. Okay, these are very useful transitional signals. Make sure that you use these words in your writing to make it more coherent and advanced. Give you a model or an example about compare contrast essay. I chose a very simple subject, which is about cats and dogs. Look, simply what I wrote in the title: cats versus dogs. Simply. Okay. This is the introduction. Look what I wrote in the introduction. How I started from the general idea to the specific to the thesis statement. Since cats and dogs are animals, so I started talking about animals. Animals play an important yet unique role in human life, especially those considered domestic. Okay, I gave general idea about animals. Now I have to move to the specific, which is cats and dogs. The most common animals that live with the humans are cats and dogs. Okay? Now I have to move to the thesis statement. What do I want to say about cats and dogs? There are several similarities that cats and dogs share, but at the same time, they are very different. You notice? I mentioned in the thesis statement that I'm going to talk about similarities and differences between them. Three sentences made for me a very excellent introduction for my essay. Okay, now let's move to the body paragraphs. As we agreed, I'm going to follow this the first way, which is compare then contrast. I'm going to start with the similarities. Okay, to start, let us discuss some similarities between dogs and cats. You see, and I even gave like a topic sentence in my first body paragraph. Both cats and dogs have fur. You see, I use the word both. Have fur, therefore, require regular combing and washing. These are just ideas, but I want to show you the structure of my writing and the useful transitional signals that I use. Both cats and dogs shed, so you will definitely have some problems with cleaning out their hacklers. Both of them were domesticated hundreds of years ago, so they got used to living in captivity. All of these are similarities between cats and dogs. The important issue for the breeder is that both cats and dogs nurse their young without significant help from the human. Likely, see, I use likely. Likely, cats and dogs can be trained. Last but not the least, they both bring love and affection to humans, love to sleep with their owners, and are believed to alleviate problems with her. Okay, so here in this short paragraph, I mentioned a lot of similarities. Okay, and I used the useful transitional signals. And if you notice, I used a very simple language to help me write the essay easily. Now we have to move to the, which is about the differences. Okay, I divided the body paragraph into two parts here. Let's start with the differences. Aside from the similarities, there are also various differences between the two animals. Okay, so you see, I gave a topic sentence. To begin with, what I want from you now is to focus on the structure only. Okay, don't focus on the ideas a lot because you're going to have a different topic to write. To begin with, cats belong to the family of felines. Cats are loners, meaning they can spend a lot of time alone without getting lonely. They like spending time away from people. Dogs, on the other hand, you see, dogs, on the other hand, to show that there is a difference, are canines. They are a pack of animals, which means you should spend lots of time with your dog so that it doesn't get lonely. The sounds they make also differ from a dog. The sounds they make, who? The cats. Typically, you will hear a meow or a purr from a cat. A dog goes woof, bark, growl, or howl, completely opposite to a cat. See, this is the second difference. That's another difference. You see, you notice what I used here? Another difference is that dogs are nocturnal, meaning they go out at night. They also have they also have retractable claws, unlike dogs. Cats seem to be very well balanced and a lot more flexible than dogs. Dogs, however, are day animals. Another very obvious difference between dogs and cats is that dogs are usually bigger than cats. Dogs are also somewhat smarter than cats in the area of verbal comment. For example, you can call your dog by name and usually it will come to you, unlike a cat. So now I finished from the differences. If you notice the structure and the transitional signals that I used, and I used a very simple language, I have to close my paragraph now with a conclusion. There are various similarities and differences that dogs and cats hold to each other. If you see, there is a restatement, okay? Here I'm restating the thesis statement. Some may think more highly of cats due to their intelligence, while others will choose a dog any day because of their companion. It primarily relies on the personality of the person. Okay, here I gave a general idea about people who like cats and dogs, and I finished my essay. This is the compare contrast essay. It's very easy, it's not complicated. Okay, it's just a matter of mentioning similarities and differences between two people, two objects, two places, two things, two animals, two ideas, whatever. Okay, now that we have finished from the writing, we have to move to the grammar part. Are you ready? Follow me. So, guys, now that we have reached our grammar part, the grammar part is in this lecture is about action verbs and objects. You might find it very easy. Yes, it's very easy. It's familiar. It's not something very new to you. Okay, are you ready to move on? Let's go. We're going to cover in this part, in the grammar part, certain objectives. You're going to identify action verbs, you're going to identify direct and indirect objects, and you're going to use quotations in a dialogue correctly. Okay? Before I ask you what is an action verb, I want to ask you what is a verb. And as you know, that we cannot have a complete sentence without a verb. The verb is the action that from the word action, the action that the subject is doing. And from here, we took the action verb. We have different kinds of verbs. We have action verbs, we have linking verbs, okay? But in this video, we're going to focus on the action verbs only. What is an action verb? A verb is one of the most important parts of the sentence. As I told you, I cannot have a complete sentence without subject, a verb, and the complement, okay? So the verb is one of the most important parts of the sentence. What does it do? What does it do? It tells the subject's actions, events, or state of being. It tells about the subject. It is always found, you see, always found in the predicate of a sentence. So as we said before, the predicate starts from the verb till the end of the sentence. A verb that shows action is called an action verb. And from the word action, you can directly notice that it involves physical movements. Okay? You want more details? Let's move on. These words are action verbs. Like what? Cough. So I'm coughing. So this includes action. What's the second? The action verbs are the verbs that show movement, or especially physical movement, okay, in a sentence. And who is doing this movement? The subject. Who is doing this action? The subject, okay? Let's have this exercise as an example. Can you find the action verb in each sentence? Let's try. The girls danced in the recital. The girls danced in the recital. First of all, what is the subject? Who? The girls. What did the girls do? They danced. So the verb is danced. Danced shows an action, shows movement. Yes, for sure. You have to move your body while dancing. So dance here is an action verb. So the action verb here is dance. Let's take another example. Our mailman drove a funny car last week. Who, first of all, what is the subject? Mailman. This is the subject. Okay. What did the mailman do? Drove. So what is the action verb here? Drove. Okay. It involves an action, movement. Let's move on. His teacher wrote the answers on the board. Okay. His teacher is the subject. What did his teacher do? Wrote. Wrote. Does it include a physical action? Yes, for sure. Or sorry, a physical movement for sure. So it includes an action. The action verb is wrote. Last example. Alice worked on her homework last night. What is the subject? Alice. Okay. What did Alice do? Work. What is the action verb? Worked. Okay, all of these actions, they show movement, okay, physical action. That's why I call them action verbs. Okay, you might ask, how would I know the difference between an action verb and other verbs? Okay, ask yourself, when you find the verb, does the verb show movement, physical activity? If yes, then it's an action verb. If no, then it's not an action verb. Let me give you an example. I love cats, or the teacher loves cats. Or let's say the teacher loves dogs because I love dogs. The teacher loves dogs. What is the subject? Who? The teacher. What about the teacher? The teacher loves. So the verb is what? Loves. Okay, here, loves. When I want to love a dog, do I make a physical activity or do I show an action? No. So here loves is not an action verb because it doesn't show a physical activity. But when I say the teacher plays with the dog, okay? What is the verb here? Play, okay? And the play, I have to make movements. I have to show physical activity while playing. So here play is an action verb, okay? This is the difference between the action verb and other verbs, okay? Always keep in mind, the action verb is the verb that shows physical activity, okay? Let's move on. Now, I have to move to the present verbs. Why I'm mentioning here the present verbs, it's just as a reminder to help you write the action verbs in the present tense correctly, okay? I know that you know them, but it's just a reminder. An action verb that describes an action that is happening now is called a present tense verb, okay? For example, look at the picture, look at this bird. What is this bird doing? The bird flies through the sky. If you notice here that flies took IES also because we crossed the Y because it was preceded with a consonant, then we added IES since the bird is singular. Okay? Flies is a present tense verb because it's happening right now. Okay? It's just a reminder for you. Many present tense verbs end with S, but some end with ES or IES. This is just as a reminder also for you. Splashes You see here, it took es at the end. And ies. Now we move. Now that we have finished from what is an action verb, we all know. Sorry, we all know what is an action verb. There is something called direct object. What is the direct object? Let's see. A noun or a pronoun. Okay, so it's a noun or a pronoun. Then, two, it follows an action verb. It always follows an action verb. Three, receives the action of the verb. It receives the action of a verb. How? Let me give you an example. Or in other words, before we move to the examples, a direct object can be found by asking whom or what about an action. When I find the action, I ask whom or what about the action. How? Let's see. The message reached the lawyer. Okay? First of all, what is the subject? The message. What is the verb or the action verb? Reached. Okay. The message reached whom? The lawyer. So the lawyer here is the direct object. And if you notice, it follows the action verb and it receives the action of the verb. So the subject is the message, reached is the action verb, and the lawyer is the direct object. The message reached whom? It reached the lawyer. So the lawyer is the direct object. Again, we repeat, the direct object is a noun or a pronoun. It follows the action verb and it receives the action of the verb. Okay? So let's take another example. His landlord is raising the rent. Who the subject? What is the subject? His landlord. What is the action verb? Raising. Okay? He's raising. Here the action verb, the main verb is raising. Is raising what? The rent. So what is the direct object? The rent. Subject is the landlord. The action verb raising is raising what? The rent. So the rent is the direct object. That's it. Simply. Okay? I have the subject, the action verb, and after the action verb here, I have a direct object, which I can find it by asking whom or what the action is about. Okay? Whom or what an action is about. Okay? Let's move to the indirect object. I have the direct object. Now let's move to the indirect object. What is the indirect object? Also, it's a noun or a pronoun. But what does it do? Tells to whom or to what or for whom or for what the action of the verb is done. For whom or for what. Let's see the difference between the indirect object and the direct object. For example here, Andy brought a flower. Andy is the subject. Brought is the action verb. Brought what? A flower. You've noticed the difference here? A flower is a direct object. I ask the brought what? Pay attention to what I'm saying. Brought what? Brought a flower. So flower is the direct object. Directly brought what? A flower. Let's take another example. Andy brought me a flower. What is the subject? Andy. Where is the action verb? Brought. Brought what? A flower. So here, a flower is the direct object. But brought to whom or for whom? For me. So here, me is the indirect object. Okay? So, and is the subject. Again, I repeat. I want to show you the difference between the two objects, the indirect and the direct. The subject is Andy. The action verb is brought. Ask yourself, brought what? Brought what? The flower. So flower is the direct object. But if I ask myself, brought to whom or to what? To whom? Or for whom? For me. So me is the indirect object. Okay? Let's take this other example. Sarah showed the class her new glasses. Okay. What is the subject? Who? Sarah. What did Sarah do? Showed. Okay. Showed what? If you directly ask yourself, showed what or who? Showed her new glasses. So you directly take the answer her new glasses because you asked the question. You answered the question. Showed what? So glasses is the direct object. But ask yourself again. Showed her glasses to whom? To the class. So you notice the difference. Showed the classes to whom? To whom? So I'm asking about indirect object. The indirect object here is the class. Okay? So when you want to ask about the direct object, ask who or what. But when you want to ask about the indirect object, ask for whom, for what, or to whom, to what. You see, 2 and 4 make a great difference between the direct and indirect objects. Sarah showed her new glasses to whom? To the class. Let's take another example. Okay? Jeff gave Caroline a chess set. What is the subject? Jeff. What did Jeff do? Gave. Okay. Now ask yourself, gave what? Gave what or who? Here you will directly go to the direct object. So Jeff gave what? Chess set. So chess set is what? Direct object. Okay, ask another question. Jeff gave to whom or to what? To Caroline. So Caroline here, since I answered the question to whom, I got the answer Caroline. Caroline is the indirect object. Okay? So again, I repeat, when you want to ask about the direct object, you ask who or what. Only who or what. But when you want to ask about the indirect object, you ask to whom or to what, for whom or for what. Okay? So Jeff is the subject, gave is the action verb, chess is the direct object, and Caroline is the indirect object. Please note there is an important note. If there is an indirect object, there must be a direct object. Okay, so in the sentence, I cannot have an indirect object without a direct object. However, you can have a direct object without an indirect object. Okay, so the sentence must include a direct object with an sorry, the sentence must include a direct object if there is an indirect object in the sentence. But in case there is no indirect object, it's okay. I can have a direct object without it. Okay? Or let me give it to you in other words. I cannot have an indirect object without the direct, but I can have a direct object without the indirect. Okay? Because the indirect is always dependent on the direct. Okay? But the direct doesn't depend on anything. Move to the usage of quotation mark in the dialogues. Okay, it's very easy. It's not complicated at all. Just certain rules you have to follow while writing. This will help you a lot in your writing. Okay, use a quotation marks to set off quoted language. When you're quoting a language, when you're writing something that has been said by another one, it's better to use quotations to set off the language. For example, he asked, won't you go with me to Juan's party? I will, she said. Join you at the party when I get off work. Excellent. I will see you there, Mark said. Notice here, he asked, and we added a comma. Quotation. Won't you go with me to Juan's party? The question mark. Then I close the quotation. Okay? If you notice also here, I open the quotation, I gave the response. Excellent. I will see you there. Comma. I closed the quotation. Then I said mark set. That's it. Only the quotation marks. What I have to use is the quotation mark. When you start with the he asked or they asked or she said, okay, you add a comma after it, then you open the quotations, you write the quotation, you put the correct punctuation, then you close the quotation. Or vice versa, you can start with the quoted language, then you mention at the end who said that. What is the direct speech? Direct speech is the words that people actually say. For example, my leg really hurts. Okay, this boy is saying my leg really hurts. The boy is talking about himself. He is the one who is saying the speech. Here there is no need to use quotations, okay, at all. Do not use quotations here because the boy is talking about himself. Okay, now I want to turn this speech, okay, into a sentence. Okay, I want to write what the boy was saying. What should I do? Imagine that the words are sheep. Let me give you this simple example. Imagine that the words are sheep. My leg really hurts. Okay? Now the boy is not talking. Pay attention. I want to turn his speech into a sentence. What should we do? Just we write it this way? No, the sheep have to be kept in a pen. Why? We'll see. But what is the pen here? It is the quotations. It is what the quotations. You see? The first one at the beginning of the sentence or at the speech, and the second one at the end of the speech. Let's move on. If there is no capital letter on the first word, then the sheep can escape. Okay? I turned what the boy said into a sentence. Okay? But it's still missing something. Okay, it's first of all, it's missing the capital letter at the beginning. In this way, the sheep will escape. Uh-huh. Oh, they escaped. Uh-huh. I made it a capital letter. This way, it will not escape. Also, if there is no punctuation mark on the last word, then the sheep can escape too. Where is the punctuation mark at the end? The quotation is not enough. Okay, the first step, we added the quotation. The second step, we added the capital letter at the beginning. But what does it miss? It misses the punctuation at the end. What would happen? The sheep will escape. Oh my God. We have to add the correct punctuation at the end. So now the sheep are safe and won't escape. Quotation mark, capital letter, correct punctuation at the end, then quotation mark. Okay? This way, I write quotations correctly in a sentence or in a speech. Also, if you want, you can you can add at the beginning, for example, the boy cried, the boy cried, comma, I open the quotation, my leg really hurts, I put the correct punctuation, then I close the quotation. Okay, guys, so now I have finished the video. Good luck, goodbye, lots of luck in solving the worksheet, and stay tuned till we meet in the live Zoom. Love you all. Bye.